Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good evening everybody. I hope everybody's having a wonderful Saturday. We're going to talk about the Iraqi dinar and some things that are going on. Obviously, we all know that there's some specific things that are taking place and they're transpiring. You know, we got the salaries, the oil, all that. We got the court case. We have the Fed wire system coming up in the next couple of days. We have the court case on the same day. We have those types of things. And before I get started, I just have a quick word from our video sponsor tonight, Noble Gold. You probably think your 401k is safe, that it's growing, that it'll be enough for your retirement. But what if it's not? Here's the truth. Your 401k was never designed to make you wealthy. It was created in a corporate boardroom to shift retirement costs and investment risk onto you. Designed to keep your money trapped, exposed to Wall Street crashes, inflation, and uncertainty you can't control. Until now, Americans are taking back control by turning to real assets like gold. Noble Gold Investments has helped thousands protect their future by converting part of their retirement savings into physical gold. Talk to Noble Gold today and learn how safe and easy it is to roll over your 401k into a tax-advantaged gold IRA without penalties or headaches. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com to get your free wealth protection kit, including a step-by-step guide to get started. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. It's time to get your money out of the danger zone and into something real. So get rewarded for getting started. Open a qualified account at noblegoldinvestments.com and they'll send you 2 5-ounce silver America the Beautiful coins free. So we're just going to jump right back in and say, look, this article today is called the Iraqi Chamber of Commerce was honored with the award for the best performing national committees worldwide. Fairly sure you're going to see that this is something that took place almost a year ago. But the good thing is Iraq's been awarded, and that's the topic here. It says the International Chamber of Commerce honored the Iraqi Chamber of Commerce with an award for the best performing national committees in the world. It says the Federation of Iraqi Chamber of Commerce stated that the International Chamber of Commerce honored the Iraqi Chamber of Commerce with a prize awarded to the best performing national committees in the world. It says this honor came as a result of the implementation of the annual plan for 24 to 2025. So you can see that right there tells you that this wasn't just yesterday. They've been involved. It says they are efficiently and effectively reflecting Iraq's commitment to strengthening its international position on the global trade map. I think that's huge. This is on the sidelines of the annual week, the first anniversary of Iraq's secession. In the International Chamber of Commerce was officially celebrated in an important step towards building strategic partnerships and enhancing business environment in Iraq. They're talking about trade policy. They're talking about international committees, strategies. They're talking about arbitration with agricultural food initiatives. That's global trade, you guys. They're talking about annual meetings with the World Council of the International Chamber of Commerce, and they're also talking about workshops. They're talking about doing meetings with West Asia. They're talking about North Africa. Okay, so this is all about trade. It's phenomenal. So it says the Ministry of Commerce, Department of Foreign Economic Relations supported Iraq's accession into the International Chamber of Commerce and continues to follow up on the special activities of the National Committee program of the International Chamber of Commerce. What basically it's coming down to is that this is just very telling. The Chamber of Commerce gets an award, Iraq's Chamber of Commerce gets an award for the significant importance that they've had a session over a year ago. Real close, okay? And it's all regarding world trade policy. I mean, to that effect, they are involved for the first year and they get an award for their accomplishments. I think that's really, really big. It's really good because it sets the stage for We talked about the ICC, right, and how they have a collaboration with the WTO. And here they're talking about trade. And isn't that what the World Trade Organization is about? And isn't that what the ICC does? It's about mediation and helping countries like Iraq. And then now they're going to be doing it, instead of having it shipped out and farmed out overseas, maybe Dubai or Paris, for instance. They're going to do all their mediation at home with their own attorneys so that they can have those disputes resolved. We talked about that. So if you combine all of this, it's really fascinating, and it sets the stage for Iraq has been fully ready to integrate into the global financial system, as far as I can tell you. There's a lot of reasons for that. But in the meantime, what have they been focusing on lately, too? They've been talking about corruption. It says, here's this article. It says, it's in patreon.com with militiaman&crew in our Discord chat room. It says, among them are forgery, currency smuggling, and real estate seizure. We've seen some articles about them clawing back money from those that were corrupt. We haven't heard anything about the crime of the century, but we have heard about overtime. They've also talked about overtime, like I just said, was in the past, there's a history of some key political people that have family, etc., that have had some dealings that are suspect. We haven't heard about that. But ultimately, if the amount of money that's been published out there that's been stolen, and for the last 2.5 years being tracked, they might have some problems. Okay, so, but ultimately, you think about it though, at this stage, Iraq has about $100 billion in reserves or more, and they've got about 145 to 146 tons of gold, and instead of just being oil, right, they've got non-oil resources, all of those things I've told you about. All of that supports Iraq's real effective exchange rate into the future. And that's a really interesting thing, is because they're basically putting the people on notice that if you've been involved in forgery, for instance, in real estate, or currency smuggling across borders, even the dollar auction, they probably have records of that for a long time. You follow this, like, and what are they suspect to get? They've already have like 15 cases of prosecution. And so I think that's probably going to keep going, because we're talking about 20 years of corruption, and depending on how far back they can go, they might claw back a lot of money. And bottom line, if you go from 100 billion to 200 billion to 300 billion, 400 billion, 500 billion, and I wouldn't be surprised if the latter is not something we read about. It just goes to show that all that money will come back in some shape or form into their treasury, and that's big. So it says the Iraqi Public Prosecution Authority revealed the most prominent tasks of its work, especially in the areas of forgery, currency smuggling, and they call it the rape of real estate, while referring to the investigation of a prominent role in combating currency smuggling, pursuing money laundering networks, and explaining the punishment of those involved in the money smuggling file. One of the things that they do talk about here is that they talk about all cases, criminal cases, are considered in the civil lawsuits to which the state is a party, are considered in order to preserve public money. To preserve public money. That's one of the biggest things, right? It says that the crime of currency smuggling is one of the crimes harmful to the national economy, and the courts of inquiry competent to consider issues of integrity and economic crime have taken measures against many banks, exchange companies, and fictitious companies that participated in currency smuggling, and issued many arrest warrants against their owners. And these cases were referred to the criminal and misdemeanor courts according to the legal adaptation of the crime. It's a pretty long read, but the bottom line is the central bank of Iraq plays an important role through its financial policy and its control over financial institutions. It says the investigations were conducted in the field of money laundering, of money transfers to currency auction, at the central bank, with people who did not provide customs permits supporting the entry of imported goods in exchange for transferred amounts, as most investigations were conducted in the Rusfa Court of Investigation. So people were just basically lying about what they were doing. and they're probably going to get caught. So it goes on and says the procedures were coordinated with the central bank, the General Authority for Customs, and the National Tax Authority to reveal those networks, and many judgments were issued against those involved, and these procedures contributed to reducing money laundering operations, and I'll suspect that they're going to claw back money, like I just mentioned. Fictitious companies that open bank credits in dollars without the presence of corresponding goods enter the auction to sell the currency through the banks under certain conditions, and including submitting invoices of the goods that are often unofficial and with other conditions, and are given deadline that may be months to bring customs permits that correspond to these goods that are supposed to have entered into the country in exchange for transferring their amounts outside of Iraq for importing them. So basically they're just stating that people were not telling the truth. And again, there's pages of description. And this article is a big read. It's a lot. I edited it down, but I'm not going to get into the whole thing. It's but it's really fascinating because we've talked about this on our videos, is that fake news. This bit right here quickly is spreading rumors, i.e. fake news. She goes on, she says, based on the continuous directives of the President of the Supreme Judicial Council, which urges the need for cooperation between the judiciary and the competent bodies for the purpose of imposing security and taking strict legal measures against anyone who violates the law by provoking sedition among the members of the same society, which is the people of Iraq, or who promotes false rumors, media, right? Media, we'll just leave it at that. The effect of the security and order of the state, follow up of these social media sites. There you go, that's what I was looking for. And then, which they do is that they negatively offend the state while stressing the need to ignore the role of national media to stand by the security of the country and the rule of law in order to promote the spirit of solidarity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it goes basically on to say that if you're making fake news, you better be careful, because you've been warned to not do so, and if you're going to harm the state, the potential circumstances, those consequences, in some cases, is life imprisonment. And it's basically stating as much. And so they've warned them again and again, and now they really got serious about it by that article. But on another note, keep that in mind, because corruption is going to be money for the citizens, and they're going to be exposed, and they call it embarrassment. They don't want to be embarrassed, right? Well, they're going to get embarrassed, because especially if they're behind bars, and some of them may even be facing life in prison. So ultimately, they're taking it very seriously, and the new technologies that Iraq has embarked on, the digital transformation, is going to be a big tool, big data. And I think that the Kurds ought to pay attention to what was put in print today, because they have some issues, I would believe, from the public media that may or may not be good or bad, but you can probably get the tone that they've been having a problem with the oil for the last 2.5 years. And I think if you look at the court case back in Paris, the courts went against the Kurdistan region. And I think the court is going to have decisions to be made specifically about oil, gas, salaries, budget, all of that. And they want accuracy. And so even if they say in the news that they're going to have, it's on Baghdad, it's not us, it's not us. Again, they've been warned about fake news, and we'll see. Here's an article, though, it's talking about, which is fascinating, is because the oil minister says, we are ready to receive the required amount of oil from the region and export it via Turkey. So isn't that one of the topics we've been talking about? I think it's big. Oil Minister Hayyan Abdul Fani, he revealed on Saturday the reasons for the delay in resuming the exports via Turkish port of Ceyhan. He basically confirms that almost all of the clauses that have been agreed upon, except for consumption and barrel liquidation, well, they're talking about costs. And they've had auditors involved and a third party getting ready for this, okay? It says, during this period, many focused discussions, negotiations took place regarding the implementation and parliamentary agreement on what was stipulated in the budget law. and that's the 23, 24, 25 budget. In light of these negotiations, an amendment was made to the budget. Article 12, Article 12.2, paragraph C is highly likely what they're referring to. It says that they've reached an agreement in delivering the quantities within this agreement and within the amendments. They're talking about the aim is to accelerate the implementation of this agreement. They say that it's set at $16 per each barrel of oil produced from the regions as in advance. And in light of this, it says a consulting company, that third party, was appointed within a clear scope with the aim of determining the price of producing a barrel of oil for each field. So each field is going to be a little bit different on the cost. So they figured those numbers out. And this has been ongoing for 2.5 years, you guys, so this isn't something brand new. So they've had some time to deal with this and refine it. And again, you have big companies involved in this, so some of the largest entities in the world dealing with it. It says, he points out that the agreement and amendment was or were presented to the regional government, and there was genuine approval of it from all parties, so they were agreeants, because it was presented to Parliament, and all members of Parliament approved this amendment, which is that one I mentioned, and it says, we demanded that the region implement it. So the focus is at the region. It's not necessarily at Baghdad. And I think that's why al-Sudani took it to the courts, because al-Sudani is a smart man. There are some issues that have hindered the implementation of this agreement. So far, one of these main issues is the budget law. And within the audit agreements of the financial oversight bureaus in both the federal and regional governments, they agreed to specify the amount of refining or internal consumption, which was estimated at about 46,000 barrels a day. It says the region is now demanding that this amount change from the 46,000 to 65,000. But they also state that doing so is a violation of the budget law. Again, back on the Kurds, going against the law. It says, we've agreed on almost all the paragraphs except this one I just mentioned, and we hope that the final stages the region will accept this amount that was agreed upon within the Financial Supervision Bureau of the federal government and the region with the aim of implementing the agreement. Lastly, he says, on our part, as a federal government, we have informed the Turkish and Kurdish sides of our readiness to receive this export quantity, which is Turkey. I was in a meeting with the Turkish Minister of Energy. Turkey is ready to resume oil exports through the Iraqi-Turkish pipeline to Cyan, but they're waiting for, as they put, our brothers in the region to deliver this quantity of oil so that it can be exported. So we've known that in the past, the pipeline's ready to go. Turkey's ready to go. So this agreement that's on the table has got to be sorted. And I would assume, though, that the court is going to be the final decision maker. Okay, and this article here is the Ministry of Finance confirms that there's no delay in dispersing dues in companies and contractors. This is going to be, again, back to fake news, because that's one of the themes today, is that you got to be very careful about going against the state. If you're harming them, making them look bad, there could be consequences, especially if it's untrue. And the Ministry of Finance confirms. So this is probably TAFE Sammy. Yeah, I think it is. It says there is no procrastination or delay in dispersing the dues of companies or contractors. It says the statement she makes is that it clearly denies what was stated in the statement of the chairman of Iraqi Contractors Union regarding the existence of procrastination or delay in dispersing the dues of companies and contractors, and confirms that the ministry is fully committed to implementing the Cabinet Resolution 273 of 2025. And they talk about paragraph 2, and they go on and say effectively that she denies it. Okay. But the bottom line is, says, the Ministry of Finance affirms that there's respect for contractors' rights and its commitment to disperse them in accordance with official procedures. But it also reserves the legal right to respond to any abuse or misleading public opinion. So by her denying that, she's stating and giving a warning to them for giving out false information. And I think that's a big thing, because that big article is about corruption, it's about smuggling, it's about real estate, fictitious businesses. And they talk about in that article earlier on fake news or rumors, if you will. Once you tie that in, you're going to be like, oh, Kurds got some splaining to do, as Lucy would say. All right, so no, I think that was Ricky that would say that. Okay, so it says the KDP, the Kurdish Democratic Party leadership meeting discusses political developments and outstanding issues with Baghdad. And it basically, the main focus of the talks was the agreement between Erbil and Baghdad, the issue of salaries and oil. It says that the KDC or KDP has repeatedly indicated its withdrawal from the political process in Iraq, but since yesterday, a number of the political leaders have contacted the leaders of the Democratic Party to prevent them from taking position on the political process. So the Kurds are going to be bantering, and they, as you guys can see, until we're blue in the face. But the bottom line is, it says, meanwhile, efforts are underway to hold a meeting of the coordination framework tomorrow, okay, to reach a decision on this contentious issue between Erbil and Baghdad. It's hoped that the federal court will convene and issue a ruling on the region's salaries within the next few days. Well, that's today. Tomorrow's another day, and the 14th of July is Monday. And that's basically, I think, what's going to be on the table. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some capitulation from the Kurdistan region tomorrow. We'll see. We'll just see. Okay, here's the last article is focusing on legislation. Interesting. Al-Sudani forms the largest parliamentary bloc. This is this is a change. Change is coming. And Al-Sudani is going to lead the way. You'll see. And so this gentleman by the name of Maslawi, it says he's a spokesman for the Reconstruction and Development Bloc in Parliament, confirmed on Saturday that the new bloc, led by Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani, is the largest in Parliament. He explains that it will take the initiative to enact important laws during the current legislative session. But interesting, what a name, right? It's called the Reconstruction and Development Bloc, submitted in an official letter to the Speaker of Parliament today, accompanied by the signatures of 53 MPs requesting that they join this bloc, thus making it the largest parliamentary bloc in the Iraq Parliament. That's big. Who's leading it? The Prime Minister Shia al-Sudani. What they're called, the what? The Reconstruction and Development Bloc. Isn't that the development road? And all these, they have the largest bloc to do what? Do business. It's brilliant. It says the bloc will take an initiative to legislate important laws, especially since it was formed with the goal of ensuring the real role of the House of Representatives in the current legislative session, indicating that the bloc will take it upon itself to hold sessions during the current legislative session to pass laws of concern to the public. I think oil, gas, salaries, budget, all of those three, four things are concerns to the public. It says we're working to legislate laws that are not controversial or that achieve benefit for the Iraqi people. It says in all sectors, whether it's health, education, service, or other sectors that have direct contact with individuals, as well as the popular mobilization forces service and retirement law. I think that's a pretty big deal, and I think that's kind of a big global deal too, that popular mobilization forces is going to be in the news, and I think there was an article specifically out about that today. Basically, it says that other such laws as completing the National Security and Intelligence Service Law pertaining to other security agencies, and any law that serves reconstruction and development. And that's what this whole process is going to be about. They're going to go do the Development Road Project, which is going to be reconstruction and development, and now Al-Sudani has what may appear to be one of the largest blocks to make sure that it gets done. It says that regarding the Abdullah, the core Abdullah issue, it's a port, it says the core Abdullah issue was completely canceled. So in other words, the lawsuit sounds like it was canceled, and it says it was canceled by a binding and final federal court ruling. So that's behind us now, and it looks to be solved. The court ruled. Well, the court's pretty much ruled on the salaries and all of that stuff in the past. And we're going to find out if, in fact, that was done back in February or March of 2025, and we're just now finding out about it. At least publicly. Let's see. Okay, it says here, it goes in and says, we in the Reconstruction and Development Bloc proceed first from citizenship and second from the fair distribution of wealth and service across all governance, preserving everyone's rights. In other words, to me, what they're talking about is the wealth of the country isn't about the Kurdistan region. It's not about Baghdad. It's about every single person in the whole country. And I think that that's where the Kurds have a little problem. Just spitballing, you guys. It says, therefore, the door is open to all MPs whose orientations are close to or in line with the goals of the Reconstruction and Development Bloc. The number of members of the bloc may rise to 60 in the coming days. So al-Sudani feels pretty confident, according to the news, that they've got 50 to 53, and now they're thinking that it's probably going to go to 60, and I think that's a big deal. It says the Reconstruction Development Bloc has not yet agreed on leadership committee, but it says that doesn't matter. It says, but everyone agrees that any individual within the bloc, all of them, each and every one of them, is capable of managing and leading the bloc in the coming period. So whether there's 50 or 60 people, there's going to be one, but yet every single one has the ability to manage this. I think that's what they're getting at. In other words, they're all qualified to be in the position that they're in. And I would say that they're probably all qualified and trusted by al-Sudani. It says that this Masla Maui, it says in a press conference, it says the bloc carries its narrative, a project to rebuild the Iraqi state and build a mature political system as a new national project. So they're going to clean up the house. And it believes that the next phase of stability, provision of services, and the advancement of Iraq begins with real construction, real reconstruction, development, and a fair distribution of wealth. And earlier on today, I talked about this, and I said, well, just off the basis of what I got in the first article, I was like, sounds good to me. The development road project is part of the whole system, right? That's what we've been waiting for. Port of Fa, going to Turkey, moving trade, private sector, partnerships of all those things. And now we see that they're moving forward on it, and they have a block called Reconstruction and Development. And al-Sudani is leading it. I don't think there's any coincidences in this. I don't think there's any coincidences in the way that this has transpired. I also think that the legal aspect, as they focus in on, has been sorted many, many months ago. But there's lawsuits that have been potentially frivolous lawsuits, and that could be part of that USA trap that they've talked about. I don't know. But the bottom line is that it's coming up, and they're going to have the coordination framework tomorrow meeting about these issues, and then the court is going to supposedly be, if they convene, as they say, if they convene on July 14th, and that's what they've slated they're going to do. So the next couple of days are going to be pretty powerful, you guys. I really think that it's an exciting times. And if we remember a couple of articles back that we talked about, is that al-Sudani took a move to avoid having conflict with the coordination framework and others because of the nature of this issue. So he chose to take it to the court. And if I'm not mistaken, he may have done that back in April or March, February or March, whatever. Just keep that in mind. I don't know if it's going to hold true, but I think that we're pretty excited about specific things. And remember, the Fed wire was supposed to be slated for sometime around that time. And here again, it didn't happen. They extended the Fed wire ISO 20022 out from that February-March range to July 14th. And the court has that on their table with Al Sudani and Taif Sami about salaries, budget, all that, on the same day. I find that convergence fascinating, and I think it's got some meat to it. So I hope you enjoy my content, and I think it's real news. And for all of those out there that think that they've heard this before, I smile and wave and shake my head. Have a good day. Please, if you like my content, hit that like button and subscribe. And thank you again for those donations. And a couple of you folks were very kind. We appreciate you. Have a great day. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content. Subscribe to the channel or join us at the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.